Hello, it's Keith here, and this is lesson 5 of my pdp11 assembly programming tutorials. So this is the 5th lesson, it's probably going to be the final one, and we're going to be looking at the bit operations, the logical ops, things like that. So we're going to finish off the language, and hopefully we'll see pretty much everything we're going to need to actually do some programming. Okay, well let's get straight over to the source code, and let's see today's examples in action. Okay. So we've got a variety of examples today, and they're split by functional purpose. So let's fire the first one up. I think we'll try and use R11 today because the text is a little bit bigger. Here it is. Okay, so we're going to be doing a variety of different commands here, and we're just going to go through each one and discuss what it does. So first of all, we're looking at this swab command. Now this is swap byte. So what this does is it takes a register and it swaps the high part and the low part of the register. Now, because these are displayed in octal, it's a little bit confusing, but essentially 377 is the bottom byte of the 16-bit pair, entirely set to ones, as you can see just here. But then if we do the swab command here, you can see these ones have moved to here, and this has then become 1774 here, which means that the top byte is entirely ones. We do the swab command again, and it moves back to the bottom. So you can see here the bits have been moved. So yeah, this is a command for swapping the top and bottom half byte of a register over, which should be quite handy in some cases. Now the next command we're going to look at is SXT, which is sign extend. This sign extends a 16-bit register into a 32-bit pair. Now this uses the sign flag from the flags register to do that extension. So before we use the command, we need to make sure that we've got the sign set correctly in the flags. So we're using the test command here to set the flags according to R1, and then we're sign extending R1 into R0 here. Now if you look at the example just here, we've got R1 set to all ones here, which of course has the top bit as 1, and when we sign extend that, it fills the top register entirely with ones. Now if we do a similar command here, just with the top bit as 0 and sign extend, then of course that will fill the R0 entirely with zeros here. So that's keeping the positive or negative sign accordingly and using that 32-bit pair there. Now, as well as sign extending, we have some bit flipping operations. We have the complement command, which will alternate all of the bits, effectively flipping everything. And you can see the result of that just here in R0 here. So all the bits that were 0 are now 1, and all the bits that were 1 are now 0. Now, in a similar vein, we have the negative command. Now, if you remember, our logical operation for converting a positive number to a negative number is we flip all of the bits and add 1. And that's exactly what this does. You can see here that in this case, the bits were all flipped. In this case, the bits are all flipped. The only difference is that the bottom bit has changed. It's gone up by 1 because we've effectively added 1. So that's what the negation command does there. So that's the first set of commands we're going to be looking at. Now we're going to have a look at the logical operations. Now, first of all, let's just go over to the documentation here and let's have a look at those. So we've got a variety of logical operations. They're a little bit different to what you might be used to. We've got the XOR command, which is very common, we'd be used to that. We've got a command called BIS, bit set, which is very similar to OR on other systems. If the bit is 1, then it will be set to 1 in the result. But we don't have an AND command. We have something instead known as BIC, bit clear. Now what this does is it's effectively the opposite of an OR. So with an OR, if a bit is 1 in the parameter, then the result will be set to 1, irrespective of what the other parameter's value was before. Whereas with bit clear, whatever the value was before, the parameter being 1 will set the result to 0. If the parameter is 0, then it will be left unchanged. Now, quite interestingly, this is effectively kind of an opposite of the AND command. If we complement the parameter that we want to use, so if we wanted to do an AND of 0f, for example, if we complement 0f and we use the BIC command, that will effectively be the same as the AND command would have been. And if we're using a fixed value, we can actually do this because we can get macro assembler to calculate the complement with this caret symbol. And then this C here, that's the power symbol there. So we can actually use that to use the bit clear command as an effective AND command for fixed values. Okay, let's see these in action then. Okay, so we've got a variety of commands here. So we've got the XOR, which would be called EOR on 6502 systems, bit set, which is the equivalent of an OR, bit clear, which I say is sort of like an opposite of an AND or opposite of an OR, depending on how you look at it. And then we're going to actually use the complement statement here. This is done by the assembler, and we're going to flip R1 and then use R1 as an effective AND here. Okay, and so here are our results, and I've just got to try and get them all on screen at the same time. Okay, so our first operation was XOR here. Now we've got a variety of test values here. You can see them just here. So first we've XORed R2 with R0 here. So here's R2 and here's R0. Now XORing, of course, will flip the bits where the parameter is 1 here. So these bits have been flipped to 1 here because of these ones here. These bits have been flipped to 0 here because of these ones here. These bits have been left unchanged. These bits have been left unchanged because the parameters are 0 here. This bit's been left unchanged, but these two have been flipped over here. You can see that. And you can see that the same has happened over here as well. So that's what the XOR command has done. Now after that we've done a bit set, bis, and if we look at the parameters here, you can see we've got R0 here, and where the parameter has had a 1, the bits have been set. Where it has a 0, the bits have been left unchanged. So here they still remain 0, here they remain 0. And you can see here, just comparing to the XOR here, it's obviously the difference is the sort of this case here, where both parameters were 1. So bit set is very straightforward. If there's a 0 bit, it does nothing. If there's a 1 bit, it sets the bit to 1 in the output. So you can see very straightforward there. Bit clear is the opposite. So here you can see we had a 1. The parameter was 1, so the 1 was cleared to a 0. Here, the parameter was 0, so the first parameter was left unchanged. So it's quite logical, really. Now the AND command, as I say, it doesn't really exist, but we can use the bit clear command if we complement the parameter we want to work with. So in this case, we are going to complement R0 using the com command, and we are going to use this assembler directive here, this power sign C here, which will recalculate the complement of this value here, and we'll put that into the bytecode. And so we're going to use R0 and R1 complemented, which is effectively going to be an AND command. So let's have a look at that result here. So here you can see the first parameter here. Here you can see the second parameter we want to do an AND with, but we need to complement that first in either of these ways. And you can see we've got the complement calculated here, which is effectively just the bits are alternated around here. And now what we've done is we've got effectively an AND command here of this value and this value here. So where this value had a 1 and this value had a 1, the result will be a 1. You can see that with these bits here. These have been transferred through, but these bits that are 0 have been lost. These ones here have been lost. And the same over here. These bits that are 0 in the parameter have been lost, but the bits that were both 1 have been retained. So yeah, as I say, we can use our bit clear command as an AND command if we need to, by complementing the parameter if it's an immediate value, just with this power C. But otherwise we can use the complement to flip the bits and then use that with bit clear. So that's how we can work around that. It's interesting to see these early processors didn't necessarily have the same commands that we're more used to. I mean, I'd never really come across bit set and bit clear before I came across the pdp11, but they make a lot of sense. It's just, I think, for whatever reason, the AND command became more well known. But that's just the way this particular processor works. Okay. So now we're going to have a look at some bit shifting commands. We're going to use our SOB, which is a branch and loop. So we're going to be using our very classic rotate right, rotate left, arithmetic shift right, and arithmetic shift left. Okay, here's our results. Let's just get them over here and let's have a look at what happened. Okay, so we started with a sort of sample value here, and we're going to do a different rotation each time. Now you might be familiar with these commands on other systems, so maybe it's not going to be too much of a surprise what will happen. Okay, so the first one we've done is a rotate to the right. Now on the pdp11, rotate to the right, we'll use the carry flag. So as we're rotating to the right, bits are getting pushed out of the right hand side here. So this bit 1 has been pushed into the carry here, this bit 1 has been pushed into the carry here, and as we continue rotating, that carry is pushed back into the top bit as we rotate around. So this is rotating through the carry, which is what we might want in a lot of cases. Rotate left, of course, is just doing the same. This time this bit has been pushed into the carry here, and this bit has been pushed into the carry here, and they, of course, pop up here and here as they're rotated back into the opposite side of the register. Now, as you may be familiar, arithmetic shift right and arithmetic shift left, these are ones that maintain the top bit. So if the top bit is 0, as we shift to the right, the 0 will be passed along. As we shift to the left, all the new bits at the left are filled with zeros here. But if I just change the test parameter here, if I just put a 1 in here and I do this again, well, now you can see all of the bits that were added with arithmetic shift left are exactly the same. There's still zeros, but the arithmetic shift right, it's effectively dragging the top bit and filling all the new bits with that top bit to maintain the negative sign if there is one. And if there's a positive sign, obviously it's maintaining that as well. So the new bits here are filled with 1s. The rotate left and the rotate right are completely unchanged, however. So that's what we have those commands for. It's quite handy. Okay, let's have a look at some more commands. We've got a few more to look at. In those cases, we were just shifting by 1 bit each time. We do, however, have an arithmetic shift, which will shift by a specified number of bits. So in this case, we're shifting by the number of bits in R1, the register R0 here. Now, if the number is positive, then we are going to be shifting to the left, and if it's negative, we're going to be shifting to the right. Let's just see that in action. Okay, so if you take a look at this first example here in R0 here, we've got a value of -2 here, and that is shifting as effectively 2 bits to the right each time. You can see here we're moving 2 bits to the right each time. Now, that's because we've got a negative number in R1. If we put a positive number, let's just try 3 for example, well now we're going to be shifting to the left, and we're going to shift by one entire cluster of numbers in octals, so that should make it nice and clear what's going on. So you can see this here, this 011 here has moved to here, and you can see we're moving each time by now 3 to the left, because as I say, positive numbers go to the left and negative numbers go to the right. Very good. Now there is another command which allows us to do some quite snazzy things with our shifting. Now we can actually use a pair of registers to effectively have a 32-bit shift, and we use the ASHC command to do this. Now what we do here is we specify a register, and that register and the register plus 1 will be effectively treated as a 32-bit pair, and the shift will occur accordingly. So if you look here, that's what we've done. So we've got register 0 here, which we've done the shift of 2, and this is register 1 here. Now what I'm actually going to do though, I'm just going to change this, and I'm just going to change this to a 3 here, because I think that will make it a little bit clearer what's actually going on here. Okay, so you can see here is our starting value, and we've now shifted by 3 bits each time. So the 010 has moved to here, 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 and then it's traversed from register 1 to register 0, because as I say, they're working as a 32-bit pair here, and it's shifted all the way over to here. And of course, I'm just looking at that one cluster here, but all the bits have moved accordingly. So we've got an arithmetic shift that is actually traversing a 32-bit register pair there. Very impressive. And that's the final one of the bit shifting commands. I say very impressive. It's really something impressive to see on such an early processor. Now, of course, we don't have to use a fixed value here. We can actually use a register, and the value in that register, you can see here, I'm moving by 1 bit, and I've specified that within the R2 register here. And of course, I could just change that if I wanted to 4. And that will work just fine as well. As just using a fixed number value there as an example, it's not a limitation of that command. And that's actually all we have to cover today. So there we go. So we've now covered a wide variety of commands. I think we've pretty much covered them all on the pdp11. So I hope you've found this interesting. I'm not sure what you're planning to do with this series. I found it very interesting making it, so I hope you've enjoyed it. We're not done on the pdp11 though. We're going to be looking at the UKNC, and we're going to be learning how to program that. Now the UKNC is a Russian machine. This was based on the pdp11 processor, and it's compatible with a pdp11 machine, so you can do all your kind of telnet type stuff with it as well. So if you want to see more pdp11, please like and subscribe. The UKNC is capable of some quite nice graphics though, so it's not just all going to be text and boring things like that. We will hopefully have something a little bit more fun. Anyway though, I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson. I hope you've enjoyed this series in general. Really appreciate everyone who's watched. So if you've liked it, please mention it to others. If someone mentions the PDP, mention my channel to them, and maybe they'll enjoy them. But anyway, take care of yourself, enjoy your programming projects and whatever the creative works you're doing. Thanks for watching today, and goodbye.